Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. My name is Terry and this is
Dennis.
We wanted to document our journey with Dennis being recently diagnosed with an atypical Alzheimer's, early onset Alzheimer's. It's called Posterior Cortical Atrophy and also known as visual variant Alzheimer's. And we wanted to give some insight and share our story with you guys, share a bit of our journey before and after Dennis's diagnosis. So we'll give a brief history of Dennis and me and how we came together and our life that we have now and how Alzheimer's has recently come into play into all of that. So yeah, I'll just let Dennis give a rundown on how, like, his part of his journey and where he's from.
This is, yeah, kind of where we came from, and how our lives came together, but some of the paths on the way there too. Mm-hmm. So, myself, I was born in Newmarket, and within the first year, we moved to a rural acreage where we had a pig farm and 9 acres of sweet corn and garages and lots of room to roam. I have 3 brothers. One's a year older than me and another is a year younger. And then my youngest brother, he came a couple years after that. So yeah, so 4 boys. Probably wasn't too much of a headache for my mom. We played hockey, we played baseball. So I went to a rural school, not too far from our house, and school was, I got through kindergarten and I was in the slow learning class for grade 2 and grade 3, in which my aunt taught me. I learned the art of being a smart ass, a class clown, and my aunt, I love her. She had to put me up with me for those 2 years, and I know I wasn't easy. There's reasons that kids kind of grow up that way. I know mine now, but back then I was just a little ripper. I used to fight a lot, even as a young kid, and I know out in the boonies there where you've got a school, there was lots of places to go and wrestle with other kids that might have had a tough upbringing or something happened to them, and that's what I remember is fighting during our recesses. And so as I kind of went up over the years in public school, I was getting into a little bit more trouble here and there. My dad was a teacher at this point, and he was teaching a school that was fairly close, so he knew the teachers, so I'm sure that was not great for him to have to come and pick his kid up at the office. I'm gonna miss things here, but in talking about my aunt, who was my school teacher, she also, her and her family have been a part of my life, and they lived close to me, and I know when I got in trouble, sometimes I would need a place to stay. I would get thrown out as a young teenager, and I would go carry on, and then they always had a home for me,
and you're still in contact with them,
right? They still help me out when I need it, and I love their family, and so that's always been a safe place for me, and throughout the years I've been popped in and out, and so that's one thing that I've always had.
He recently wrote a letter to his auntie just letting her know how much he appreciates her, and she texted him back, and
yeah,
good relationship.
Yeah, and I'm talking to my cousin a lot, and so for a guy that's kind of pushed everything away, it's always nice to have that security blanket, I guess you might say, and that's what it was for me back then. We had foster children in and out of our house, so I may have mentioned that. Yeah, my brothers, and with my mom babysitting, there was a lot going on, and that's where some of the problems stemmed that I have, I believe, is through some of those situations there was some bad things that happened to me, and we're not going to go into detail about that, but it shapes who you are, and not realizing that as a kid, I've learned to kind of figure that out on my own, and we're moving forward from there. And that being said, that did lead me on a journey. So after high school, my brother and I decided that we were going to go to Australia, and we had a couple friends that went with us, and it was an awesome trip, and we drove right around the continent basically, and met a lot of good people, and it was another thing where like we partied with people and met new people every day at different hostels, and it was just a great trip. After that, I went back home for a bit, and I bought a house in our area where we live in Brucefield, and I lived there for about 10 years. I worked for a casino, and I had a little wood shop in my house, in my garage, and so that was good. And then I think in and around when my dad, after he passed, I decided to head out to Vancouver where my brother was working, and I spent years out there working. Same thing. I believe I tried to get help with my alcoholism when I was out there, but it really didn't stick. I came back home for a bit, and then I was on the road again to Banff. I spent time in Lake Louise, Jasper, probably a few months at each place, and that was great. Just same lot of travelers, and of course it was an adventure as well. So after I spent time in the mountains, I ended up finding work in Slave Lake, and I did construction out there for 4 years. And I'm sorry about the timeline. I can't remember. And so we're working with what we got here. And then after Slave Lake, I came to Edmonton, and I was working out of town for, let's just say, 2 years, and that's when things were starting to get worse with the drinking. I was getting home, got dropped off a bus, and I was heading right to the liquor store, and I would drink until I passed out every night and wake up in the morning. And I remember being on the bus with all the guys from work, and a couple times it was mentioned that you better do something about your breath. But the guy that's sitting beside me on the bus said, I don't know. And so that's when the alcohol was out of my control 100%. And I did that for a couple years. and finally I didn't work anymore, and I was just in my room, and I was just drinking all the time. So you can only do that for so long. And then I reached out and I started to go to a couple meetings, and I found a place where a guy was there that had been through a program, and it was basically right in the area where we were having a meeting, and he's like, it's right over there, and he pointed his finger, and it was a place called Salvation Army, and they had a program, and it was exactly what I needed. Salvation Army, I learned a lot there. And I remember going in the first day, and they give me jogging pants to put on that wouldn't stay on me, and they were way too long. And that was kind of like, and I had to kind of fill out a form to get in there. And there was another guy beside me who turned out to be a really close friend of mine, filling it out on the same day. And I couldn't keep my hands straight enough to do it. And so when I took it up to the guy that was administrating our sign in, I just gave it to him, and he looked at it, and he looked at me, and he said, "Are you ready for this? Like, are you sure you're up for this?" And I said, I have to, I have to do this, or I'm gonna die. And I didn't have anywhere else to go, or else I probably would have been there. But thank God for Salvation Army, and I still appreciate it. My path through there was tough. I had a lot of things taken out of me, as far as a couple organs and surgeries, and I was pretty sick after that. So it was a 4 month or under a 4 month program, and I was in there for 6 months. And I believe my mom might have came out at one point with one of the surgeries I had. I remember my brother Brad being there, and that not being a good experience. He was kind of laughing at me a little bit. I can't forget that for some reason. And so yeah, it was a tough go. I got into the second stage after that 6 months, and
you started working.
I started to get somewhere. We went to a place a few hours away in the country, which is what I was brought up into. And that was like only a couple days in, but I can almost remember, I can remember a lot of that. I remember flipping a canoe, and me and another fella just had a heck of a time trying to get the canoe in. I remember there was a bunch of old boys there that were there to talk to us young guys in sobriety. There was probably 30 of us guys trying to get sober. But yeah, I was still in my first couple of days, and it was still embarrassing for me to try to eat at the tables there where everybody would eat, and they cooked for us. And for somehow, way or form, I talked one of the guys that worked there. He was actually a guy that was running it, into using his quad runner. It wasn't a quad, it was a side-by-side or something like that. And I actually, I was driving it around, and we were doing work for this place. That was part of the deal, is to come out and help out around there and work together. And man, I smacked that side-by-side. Something came across and hit a window, and we blew the side window, I think, on it, and I just felt like shit. That was tough, especially in the spot I was in. And I asked this fella that was running the place that if I could come back and pay for this through work. And I told him that, I'm a country boy, I can cut lawn, I can do it, fix things. We're good at that sort of thing. So that actually came around and happened. And I spent a summer there. And I was still in Salvation Army at this point, but being out in that country with the fresh air and working around good people, and I'll tell you, like that, I think that's a big part of how I'm still here, and it's been an important part of my life, and I went back for another season after that. I have people that are in this program that one was here 2 days ago, yesterday, 2 days ago, a couple days ago, and he helps me in the wood shop. I mean, I stay close to that group, not just a couple guys usually, that, or a guy or two that, you know, that I stay in touch with, but just to kind of still feel like I've got a hand in there, where, you know, it's nice to see guys see guys in tough places that are fighting to get their life back, and it keeps me honest as well, as much as I can be. So.
And then we met.
How would I forget? So then I met Terri. Dating app, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we're gonna skip a little bit of we've already talked about.
We did
our
talk
meetings.
about it on another video.
Anyway, I got lucky enough to meet a girl that is shy at first and is beautiful inside, and I've mentioned this before, but we laugh a lot, mm-hmm. and we have a lot of fun, and even with what I've been through, there is a lot of lack of trust, and that's that in the alcohol. You're never going to get a girl that way. Not a good one anyway. But I was pretty smooth, and I was starting to get better.
And I put up with it.
And she put up with it for a while. And thank God she did, because I've got the best girl in the world. And now I've got 2 little girls, and that she gave me, and I've found love, and I've found love in my daughters, and there's no way of going through what I've been through and not appreciating the shit right out of this. And I do every day, and I dance with my kids constantly, and I play with them, and I have my garage in the back, and we watch TV at night together, and we giggle, and we tickle, and other stuff. I'm not gonna write it out for you, but you know what I'm saying. So, like, just couldn't have been a happier story. All of a sudden, bang, we get knocked in the head again. Terri's been through the same thing I have. She's been through the alcoholism. She's been through, and she's come out beautifully. And I would say that about both of us. Mm-hmm. I feel good about myself. Yeah. I have self-esteem. I'm not afraid to stand up and talk. And that's who I was meant to be. I just took a long time to find myself. So, do you want to talk about some of your story?
Sure. Yeah, so I was raised in Manitoba by both parents, and I have 3 sisters, and the way that I was raised was in a way where half of my upbringing was in an alcoholic home and a violent home, and the other half was in ceremonies and growing up around ceremonies. And that way of how I was raised prepared me, I guess, to make a choice as an adult on whether I wanted to live one way or the other. So with that being said, my parents stayed together till I was about 12, and then they separated. My dad went on to have another family, And I have brothers and sisters from that side of my family, and my mom and my sisters and I moved around a lot as a teenager, and we bounced around. I was in a few different shelters growing up, and that way of living made me very anxious. I was a very anxious person, and so the way that I dealt with that is that I drank, and throughout high school I drank, and my family knew it was a problem for me, and I knew it was a problem, so I went to treatment, a couple different rehab centers, one here in Edmonton and then the other one in Winnipeg. And I didn't stay sober for a couple of years. I kept relapsing, and when I went to Manitoba to stay with my auntie and my uncle, and from then I stayed sober. I was 21, that was in 2005, and I've been sober ever since. And since I've been sober, I got married, and we were together for 11 years. Why are you so shocked?
Oh, I didn't know about that. Sorry.
Yeah, so I got married, and we got divorced, and but during that marriage, I went to school. I just want to mention too that I think growing up on the reserve, and also growing up with being very anxious, and growing up with the effects of intergenerational trauma by the residential caused by the residential schools, I felt that I felt like I wasn't worthy enough to go to school. I wasn't worthy enough to be a part of the larger society. So I had very low self-esteem in that regard. And so going to school, throughout going to school, I was anxious. But I ended up doing it. I think with being in recovery, you gain tools on how to live and how to cope with life. And so that's what I did. I went to Norquest in Grand McEwen. I took a policing and a mental health program. And I also went to the University of Alberta for criminology. And during that time, I was still very anxious, but I dealt with that the best way that I could. So when I was married, I did end up getting sick, and the hospitals and doctors weren't able to help me. It got to the point where I was paralyzed, half my face, couldn't move, and I couldn't really walk too much. And because the hospitals couldn't help me, I reached out to my culture, and that's the way that I got healed. And I think with that, I developed a very strong belief system in my culture. And like I mentioned before, when I was growing up, I had two choices, whether I wanted to live one way or live the other. So, and when me and Dennis first met, we talked about my culture, and that's one of the things that made me want to pursue a relationship with Dennis, was that he was very accepting of my culture, and he was not judgmental, and plus we make good cowboys and Indians.
How?
You don't say that, I say that.
Oh.
You're
Word.
like a
Yeehaw!
You're giddy up.
Goddamn right I am. Getting some sexy after this. Yeah.
I want to have kids, so I
So
looked online.
she grabbed the first guy she could see. First date you could find, and jumped on it. What do you call me a dink for? What's a dick for? Oh, I remember.
Yeah, so he was willing to give me children.
Hello.
Yeah, so
I'll do it again.
So we did end up having 2 girls, Wyatt and Tegan. They're 3 and 1 years old. Tegan's going to be 2 in a couple of months. They're growing so fast. So yeah, that's my journey. I met this wonderful man right here, my Dennis. And life is good. And then in the midst of, I guess, maybe the last year or so, we noticed Dennis started forgetting things and losing his memory. First, we thought it was ADHD, and then we decided to look into it even more and found out that he does have early onset Alzheimer's. And now this is our journey now that we're on. Just from coming from where we are from with addiction and getting sober, finding a new life with each other and having our babies, and then this come up, it's a whole different level of, I don't know how you would
Well,
say
it's
that.
anger, it's frustrating. I mean, it's a lot of things, but it's complete bullshit as far as I'm concerned. I'm not happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not enraged about it, but we're gonna continue on. We're gonna battle, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what else can you do? Like, it's just unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. I think even just coming from where we came from and learning healthy ways on how to deal with situations, dealing with life in general, in sobriety, we're trying to find the healthy way on how to deal with this and cope with this. So we did go to see Dennis's doctor just to help him find something to sleep at night, deal with his anxiety. I had an appointment yesterday with my psychologist, and Dennis has one tomorrow with a psychologist, and we're gonna do things in a healthy way. One of the things that we wanted to do for our daughters was just break the cycles of addiction and raise our kids in a healthy home, and we're gonna do that as much as possible with the time we have now and just move forward the best way we can. We know that it's going to be a fight. We know that it's going to be something that's difficult for both of us, and we just want to be able to document some of that, and we're going to try keep it as real as possible when we are documenting it, and just so that you guys are able to see what it's like and how we're coping, and just give insight on what Alzheimer's is. Most people think it's like when you're older, but Dennis is only 48 years old, and it's unfair that this is happening, but I think with what we've gone through in the past, we're gonna do it or handle it as best as we can.
I'm not gonna give up easy.
No.
And our family's really tight.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a lot of good things happening. And I hope and I pray that I can be with my family and that I don't break anyone's heart.
Mm-hmm.
My kids are too young, and I want them to understand who I am, and that's going to take years, and so I need years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm going for. So
yeah.
And I'm pretty stubborn. You laugh a bit.
Well, he is pretty
I'm a
stubborn.
little stubborn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for now we'll just close this video and hope you guys join us on our journey, Dennis's journey, our family. And we've also started a TikTok account. Just, I don't know if I need to say that.
Just saying.
Okay, yeah, just saying. TikTok.
And we love you guys, and
TikTok.
thanks for watching. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Have a gooder.